Tell me where you're from. What's your story?
I'm from Tokyo, Japan originally. That's where I was born. I've lived there about half my life, but growing up, I moved between the States and Japan a lot. Um, I lived in Vermont, I lived in Virginia, I lived in um, rural Japan, and then I moved to Boston for college, and I've been here since like 2019.
How did you get into music? Like what age would you
Um,
say?
my mom plays bass. Uh, when I was in about the second or third grade, that's when I remember wanting to play drums, and I think it was because my little brother he found my mom's bass that she hadn't touched for a while in storage or something, and he wanted her to teach him. So he was learning bass, so I decided to learn drums, and my mom bought me some instructional DVDs and a drum set, and I slowly learned on my own, and then I went on to take lessons, but I didn't really get serious about playing music until sophomore year of high school when my friends wanted to do like a classic rock cover band.
Would you say your mom played a huge part in you playing music as you do now?
Yeah, absolutely. I've played a couple of shows with her back
That's
home in Tokyo because she's not a musician by trade, but she has always been really good. She's a bass player and a singer, and she writes too. And I mean, I grew up listening to her music and the music she played and the music my dad played. So
Oh,
I'd
your
say,
dad
yeah.
plays music too?
He didn't play, but just he's really into music.
Okay.
They both have really good taste.
What was your experience like going to Berkeley?
So Berkeley was kind of. I transferred into Berkeley actually after doing pre med at Brandeis, and it was kind of took me going to Brandeis to realize that I really just wanted to study music. So going to Berkeley was a huge change of pace, and it was really fun for the first couple semesters, and it was also really stressful at times because there's a lot of talented people and a lot of type A personalities, and I think I had a lot of great teachers, and I met a lot of great friends there. But after the pandemic hit, it got really hard. I mean, we were all taking classes online, and it just really wasn't working.
I mean, for art, that's like impossible,
Yeah,
I feel.
yeah.
So,
So that was bad, but because it was the pandemic.
you dropped out, right? Or are you taking a leave of
Yeah,
absence?
I'm still in the system. I left about I think a year and a half ago, um, and then time has kind of slipped me by since because I just started working and gigging, and I kind of just fell into this routine that I like. So I haven't been there
Yeah,
since.
that's natural.
Yeah, so I'm basically dropped out.
You're in 3 bands. So, like, tell me more about your bands.
So I'm in right now. I'm in Nurse Joy, KO Queen, and another band that I recently joined to play percussion with called Jarsh. And
So cool.
we all share members. We're all kind of sister bands of each other. It's me and people that I live with now, and we all are part of the same kind of collective / like label that we're trying to start. And it was birthed out of this one house in Alston that they called the Pelvic Floor. And ever since I met those people, I've been gigging more than I've ever been in my life. So
That's so dope.
yeah.
This is kind of random, but like, do you feel your identity plays a huge part in the type of music you're doing? Or like, what is your identity? Do you think it plays a part?
That's a good question because I think before meeting the people, I joined Nurse Joy first for context. So before meeting them, I felt like I'd played in bands, but there wasn't really anything that like worked out or I clicked with. And the people I'm with now, I felt like I shared a sense of identity, but I never really thought about whether my identity played a part in like creating or performing the music. I mean, I think for them, generally, I'd say a lot of it has to do with their identity. Um, but also, I don't know, because I feel like there's not a lot of people like me in Boston, being Japanese American and Jewish and being bilingual and being a sort of a, I guess you could say like a third culture kid. Um, so I feel like that gives me kind of like a unique perspective, but I'm not really sure how it really plays into music,
Yeah.
to be honest.
But it's kind of like representation. Like if
Yeah.
you feel that you're not that
Yeah.
much, you're kind of like representation for someone else that could be Asian or Jewish.
Yeah, and I think
So
about that
it's
a
really
lot
cool.
because the scene is very homogenous in Boston.
Yeah.
Because especially in the underground scene, even though like at Berkeley, it's pretty diverse, but I still never really like. There were some people like me, and I was like involved with the Japanese Student Association, but I didn't really fit in with them either. And I
Yeah,
didn't really
because
fit
you're like
in with
more Americanized. Yeah.
yeah. Because my cultural upbringing has been like largely American, but it's still very different from people that grew up in the States because like I grew up on the internet, but I was like going to international school in Japan, so that's a very different bubble, a very specific kind of setting. But you know, I think another thing is that well, everyone like all the bands I play with now, they're very um, everyone's queer, and the music reflects that, and it's like a big part of the music we play is their queerness and
So it's kind of like your band's identity in a
I
way.
guess so.
It
I
plays a
just don't
part.
really. I don't really think about it much because I don't know. Maybe I don't like to be boxed in. But, that sounds like a cliche.
Absolutely. I get that.
It's hard to articulate.
What's your band's music if you could describe it to a stranger?
Should I do all of them?
Yeah, why not?
Okay, because the Nurse Joy. Well, I'll start with KO Queen because KO Queen is very easy to describe. I mean, more than the others. We're a hardcore band. We have some other influences like no wave and like country, but it's mostly, for all intents and purposes, a hardcore band, and that's what we tell people because it's easy to get booked that way. Nurse Joy is also a punk band. It's loud, but it's got more of a I want to say like dance punk, and there's a term that the singer of the band and the other people I live with, there's a term called egg punk that they like to use.
Okay.
It's a term that
what does that mean?
it's a term I never heard of until meeting these people, but apparently, to summarize, years ago on some forum, someone came up with the idea of like egg punk and chain punk.
Okay.
Where briefly, egg punk is like kind of tongue in cheek and weird and cute, and chain punk is like macho and kind of aggressive and kind of self-serious. So like, it's easier to talk about bands and like talk about whether they're chain and egg. So like, there was all these like discussions about like what is that. So chain is like Black Flag, Fugazi, Minor Threat, and then like egg punk is stuff like Devo, or Wrong, and a lot of other bands. So like we call a lot of our stuff egg punk, but to people that don't know what it is, I just say it's like dance punk with a little bit of like jazz. But that's because our keyboard player is a Boko trained jazz musician, and my background is not punk. My background is actually jazz fusion.
I remember that. Yeah.
And then Jarsh is technically it's the solo project of Evelyn, who sings in KO Queen. So it's all her music, but with a live band. And I don't know what I don't want to like try to describe it because I think it's something really unique, and I don't want to put any labels that she wouldn't agree with. I feel like there's a big there's a bit of like a freak folk thing. There's a lot of like dance music influence and a lot of like art rock stuff. So it's Nurse Joy's like dance punk or egg punk, and then KO Queen is hardcore, and then Jarsh is like its own kind of weird. It's like weird pop.
That's so cool though. Yeah. Do you enjoy it?
Do I? Well,
do you enjoy it? I mean, you don't have to.
No, I really do. Jarsh is really fun because I just played my first show with him in Cambridge several days ago, and it's the first time I ever gigged with playing congas, and that was really fun because because I consider myself like an amateur with Afro-Cuban percussion, but that's kind of what makes it fun for me is that it's like something new for me to like practice and study.
Yeah.
So I can approach it with a fresh kind of mindset as opposed to drums where I feel like, like I've been doing it for so long, so I tend to get frustrated sometimes practicing, but it's nice just to be able to do something new.
Yeah.
And something different.
Yeah, absolutely. The last question, but you could keep talking if you like, and it was just like, well, first, where do you want to be a year from now?
Oh.
And then where do you want to be 10 years from now?
A year from now.
A year from now, where do you want to be?
I want to be, I think for both, I want to be wherever my friends and collaborators are. We do talk about, I feel like at this point, I don't think it's ridiculous to say I would be in the same place they are, because we all kind of, at this point, we were on a stay creating together and working together, because I really want to see the projects we're all in grow, because we're all in like each other's things and we're all trying to push each other's music. So I'd say in a year, I probably want to be in Boston, but doing more gigs and maybe teaching, maybe more sessions. And then in 10 years, probably like somewhere in the East Coast.
Oh, yeah?
Doing the same thing, but bigger. And
so you think you're going to be like more based in the U.S.? Like, would you ever bring your music or your band kind of style to Japan?
See, growing up, I didn't think, I didn't really consider like working in Japan. I always thought I'd work in America, but then after going to Berkeley and then after leaving Berkeley and coming back to Japan and playing music there, I've kind of thought more and more about returning. I would like to live in Japan at some point, but I would love to bring my music there. It would just be very expensive and difficult. It's a different scene, honestly. A lot of people assume there's like a lot of room for like experimental underground music, but honestly, I never really saw it that way. Like, for one, the DIY scene is nothing like it is in the States, and nothing like it is Allston. Allston, I think, is actually really good for that. Allston and Western Mass is really good for that, because we still have house shows. That just doesn't happen in Japan. So I think that's why I see myself in the United States. But if I were to think, if I were to like use wishful thinking, I guess I'd also say that in 10 years I'd want to have some kind of like professional or musical connection with Japan that would allow me to collaborate and work there.
Yeah. What's Japan culture like? You said it's really different. In what way?
The market's much smaller. People really, there's a lot of like good experimental music. A lot of really famous musicians come from Japan, but they tend to, a lot of people they'll be more popular in the West than they are in the East. And I'd say like in America, I think most people that are into music in our age, they are really literate on the internet, and they know what Bandcamp is. They use all kinds of things to share and like listen to music. But in Japan, it's not as tech forward as people are led to believe. Actually, they still use fax machines in all their offices and stuff. And we use more paper than any other country in the world. But there is, like, in Tokyo at least, there's a big jazz scene, and it is like a burgeoning underground scene. But it's possible that I just haven't really been able to like get into it. Like, I played a couple shows that were great and met some great people, but it just seems like it's really hard. Just like the amount of space there is, the land is very expensive. There's not a lot of big houses, so I think that material circumstance makes it harder perhaps to hold like DIY shows, because most of the time you're gonna have to go to like a bar and you're gonna have to pay to play and try to make back that. In America, so far in this city, I found it much easier to just get my feet on the ground and get things going, because it's much more homogenous and kind of it's behind the times still.
Which is so funny, because I don't think people would expect that.
No one thinks of that, because people in America will like stuff from the 70s, and they like all kinds of Japanese music, but If you go to Japan, I mean, like Japanese people love. What do they love more? They love idol music, like J-pop, and they love K-pop now. But then other than that, they like American music.
This is random. It has nothing to do with music, but if you had to bring only 3 things to a deserted island, what would you bring?
3 things in
Just
general.
3 things. Nothing to do with survival. Just like, what would you bring if you were on
So,
a
because like if you
deserted?
ask me 3, I'm gonna say like water. I'm
Yeah,
gonna be boring and say water.
No, but
and
like
a
nothing
fridge
with
full of food.
survival. Just like 3 things you could bring
Yeah,
for like.
but not food or water.
No, let's say you have that.
Okay, let's say I'm on a desert island and I somehow have food and water. Um, drumsticks, a practice pad, and
Of course.
like sheet music.
And then one
Bring
more.
that. That's not 3 things.
I guess I would consider your drumsticks to be like a part of one.
Part of the
your drum.
practice. Okay,
Yeah.
good. Because then the third thing I bring is like, I guess I don't know. It's such a weird.
I know it's a weird
I
question.
suck at these. I'm sorry.
It's
I'm
okay.
boring. That's a good one. Just like my like a phone with my music on it.
But what if you have no data? What if you have no
Well, I
Wi-Fi?
just have my downloaded music at least.
Oh,
If I
okay.
just had that, that would keep me sane. So absolutely need that.
Okay, that's fair.
Just my music collection on a device.
And then to close it off, what's something you want people to know about you, about things you like, or just anything?
Okay. Well, I want to know that Nurse Joy's EP is coming out in a month or so. KO Queen has an album out, and there's a new Jarsh record coming on the October 23rd, and there's going to be a lot more music that I'm playing on. So that's what I want to know.